Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I'm Mihaylov from ПАРА, and you are with the last session from Robotics Strategy Forum. First of all, thanks to our sponsors, FNUC, Festo, and Schneider Electric for joining and supporting this event. In this session, we'll talk about a topic connected with 5G, connected with Wi-Fi 6, and the tech concepts of the future. Together with me are Alexandar Tzonev from Bulpros. Welcome, Alex.
Welcome.
Dimitar Vasilev from Microsoft Corporation.
Hello.
Hello, Mitko. Online through Zoom are joining Zaharieva from Vivacom and Jordan Popov from Cisco.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So, thanks for joining in this call. I will start with a brief question. Actually, what is behind the 5G technology and how it's different from the existing 4G network? And what's the difference?
If you allow me to start.
Yeah, of course. Please do.
On this question. First of all, good afternoon to all participants in this very good event and the forum, and compliments to the Robotic Association for bringing up such interesting and hot topics and get together all these participants. I'm really inspired by the young innovators that you presented in the previous panel. Answering in your question, let me start by mentioning that in these very difficult times of our society, actually the telecom networks make normal functioning of businesses, schools, and university actually possible. This was especially valid for the months of lockdown. At that times, the traffic in our networks increases between 30 and 50% without having negative congestions, and we managed to serve all increased demands of our consumers and businesses. And this is possible because of the millions that have been invested and the smart network planning that has been done by our engineers in the previous years. I'm making this introduction to stress on the fact that if we want to have communications infrastructure of the future, which 5G is, we should invest and roll out we need actually today. So getting to the point of your question, your previous speakers gave many practical examples for how automation and fast broadband connection will help businesses. 5G networks is actually a very good enabler of all these processes. What are the main features that differentiate 5G compared to previous generation from 2G to 4G? This is, of course, the higher speed that 5G provides. Currently, we are making tests in 3.6 gigahertz spectrum range, and we achieved their 700 megabits downlink speed. And we manage currently to double uplink for streaming. That is very important. For example, if you are a TV or you want to upload something. In the future, when a regulator provides us with the necessary spectrum, we believe that we're going to be able to provide gigabit speed connectivity. I'll give you a practical example comparing 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. If you have a 4-minute HD video with a capacity of 350 megabytes, with the 2G technology, it will take you 4 hours to download it. With 3G, it was 1 minute, 4G is 20 seconds, and 5G, it will be done almost immediately. So higher speed is one differentiation. Faster network response times is the other crucial that differentiate 5G from previous generation. It's known also as ultra low latency. Currently, we achieved 9 milliseconds. With the rollout and full capacity of 5G network, it will be 1 millisecond. But this is, of course, will be possible when we get enough spectrum from the regulator. The other very, very important feature of 5G will be efficient connection for billions of devices, from equipment on the production line of a factory to irrigation sensors used in agriculture or security cameras ensuring protection of a home. Using 5G technology will give us possibility to have 1 million devices connected in square kilometers. And of course, beyond high speeds and low latency, a key feature of 5G is network slicing. Actually, maybe this is the most important, of course, with all previous mentioned together, the network slicing. It's give the ability to support and even enable many tailor-made private virtual networks over one physical network to deliver optimal user experience. In practical terms, what it means, this means that each business may choose which exactly feature of 5G it needs, whether it will be a reduced time delay needed to make sure that a connecting car will react to a situation on the road, or extremely high reliability for a connected medical device, for example. The 5G networks can be adapted to handle each of these use cases. And this is because network slicing.
The overview, because that gives you the highlights of 5G. Definitely the most exciting one for tech people like us is the edge computing.
Okay.
Because suddenly with 5G we have all that edge computing power on the very edge of the real network, working over private networks near a real time.
I will interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
So why is not possible to have that on 4G, for example?
Because it's very centralized. So everything before 5G was lacking the distributed nature of terminating very close to the radio network and then moving everything over IP. So we have ultra low latency, we can have a lot of compute power, we can have CPUs, GPUs, we can do mixed reality, virtual reality, augmented reality on the very, very edge of the digital world where the physical world starts, because now we have all that compute. Like staying with edge computing, so MEC, mobile edge computing, that's extremely exciting for all of us. Private networks with the network slicing, so you can have enterprise and B2B networks for your factory, for your warehouse. You want to enable track and trace? There is a provider, track and trace. It provides everything over 5G. We actually have it in production today in the United States, partnering with Verizon.
Great.
Yes, I mean, the other thing about 5G, it opens a large ecosystem of partnerships for different companies like Microsoft and others, partnering with service providers, mobile network operators, and then start to enable these new use cases based on edge computing, enabling all these fantastic use cases with autonomous driving as an example, where you need to have a network capable actually of extracting 11 to 17 terabytes of data a day per car. So we actually need that big fat pipe provided by 5G. And also, since we have also the edge computing, we can bring the machine learning, we can bring all the intelligence inference of these models on the very, very edge. We don't need to transport everything to massive scale data centers somewhere. We can improve our networks for autonomous driving, for autonomous delivery, etc. On the very edge, we can improve it within a 5G node B within the neighborhood where all these cars are driving.
Well, definitely 5G is something very exciting as a topic, but here I'll pass it on a topic about Wi-Fi 6. Actually, what is Wi-Fi 6? Alex?
Yeah, Wi-Fi 6 is
can it be exciting as it 5G?
It can actually. Thing is, it's a different beast. It's again wireless technology, but it has a different target. And as Janet was mentioning, there are a lot of things that need to come from the regulators to be allowed so that you can actually enable the 5G use cases. Wi-Fi 6 is kind of working around that. It still uses the loud frequencies. It's human readable format, so to say, of the X name of 802.11ax format. So now the Wi-Fi consortium is bringing this human readable format, but essentially this gives you different mechanisms. On technical level probably is not that interesting to everyone, but it gives you different levels to optimize the air traffic. So in this way you have the ability to have multiple devices connected, way more than the devices that you could handle in the Wi-Fi 5. It gives you higher speed and if you compare one device to one device on the two standards, it's not that much. But if you compare multiple devices on the two networks, then the real benefits start showing. Wi-Fi 6 is using different mechanisms to optimize the transmission of data over the wire, over the air, and this gives you ability to have way more devices. For example, several years ago when Wi-Fi 5 was enabled, it was 2013, the average household in US had 5 devices. Nowadays it has probably around 10, and the projection is that by 2025 it would be more than 50 devices coming from within a home. It's just the household, but actually in all of the businesses we see the same. We have the smart devices that we use, but we have way more sensors, etc., that are connecting. So if you want to connect all of this, you need the reliability on a saturated network. It's not something that you could have in the older standards where you have certain limitations on the transmission. Then when you saturate the spectrum, it started dropping in quality and in reliability. With Wi-Fi 6 there are different mechanisms that are introduced, like MU-MIMO and others that will help you to use the traffic better and up the speeds when you have multiple devices. So
it's speed, a lot of devices connected to one place,
and again, responsiveness of the network is something that is way improved.
Jordan, do you think that you can add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, talking about Wi-Fi 6, you can add a lot of things. For me, why industry moved to develop the Wi-Fi 6? One definitely good point was adding a lot more devices, and that actually is done by. Wi-Fi was kind of very democratic network. Anyone can speak, anyone can listen. So it was a little bit more chaotic. Now we are centralizing the management of who speaks when and how. And that allows much more devices, as Alexander said, but also it allows a very intelligent way how you can use the data from the devices. It allows specifically for IoT, for the sensors, it allows them to use much less battery. If they are on battery, it allows them to use much less space. Because they know when they can transmit the data, they know that they have a safe channel to transmit the data. That also allows with the MIMO and beamforming that you get the better precision where the client device sits. For example, now we are all talking about the social distancing and things like that. Using Wi-Fi 6, it gives you much better precision where are the clients, so you can build up a cases like automatic alarm if you see more than allowed number of people in the place. Or if we talk about robots or IoT, I mean, you can have a system where it tells you where are your things which you monitor and how they can use.
5G and Wi-Fi 6 seems like game changers for our economy on a global scale, but how do you think that they can help Bulgarian industry to be more competitive? I'm sure that all of you have your own opinion on that based on your experience. Dimitar?
So what we see there is a demand for experimentation and test fields worldwide. And I'm speaking about use cases as autonomous delivery of parcels, autonomous delivery of food, autonomous driving, autonomous trucks, fleet of trucks, autonomous drones for drones delivery. And all these things that are happening today. Actually, we have trials at Microsoft daily. So, and these trials, they can be in a place like Bulgaria where you have, let's say, a support of the legislation. You can have a support of easier insurance policies, etc., because that's experimentation. You can have the bandwidth from and the 5G network coverage from MNOs, different mobile network operators. And you have obviously the people who are interested and keen to experiment and actually build these test fields and partner with universities, partner with enterprise companies or with end customers like OEMs, etc., to do it here in Bulgaria. And it's possible. We have the land, we have the mentality that we love to experiment. That's something. Also, I work a lot in Germany, and I was just visiting TÜV. So when you compare everything that you need to do in Germany to do a 5G operated test flight for a drone for a delivery, and the drone can carry 25 kilos in 4 years wingspan. And if you think about it, if you want to go and discuss it here in Bulgaria, I definitely see the speed to market for validation in Bulgaria will be faster.
Okay, yeah.
So
there is a reason.
yeah, I mean, there will be, it's possible to have these pockets of innovation around 5G automation, autonomous systems is here.
Okay, Jeanette, what do you think?
So I think your previous speakers, when you talk about the smart factory, you ask him what you need besides innovation and connectivity, and he answered, for a smart factory, we need smart people. So I will add here that actually 5G and Wi-Fi 6 are game changers. But to use that, we need to change our mentality first. Of course, there is more to be done in a technology side, in trials and stuff like this. But first of all, we need to promote the demands among Bulgarian business, first of all, and residential consumers. Also, my experience shows that it's very important to talk to people, to industry about the benefits of these new technologies, and also to talk with the municipalities. Because in my opinion, municipalities still needs to learn, although they already benefits from some features of 5G networks, like, for example, video surveillance is one of the features that they are using very, very often. But they still need to know more about what else we may offer to them so as to improve the quality of life of the citizens in their municipalities. And of course, we need them on our side. I mean, by our side, saying not only the network operators, but also the entire ecosystem in our industry, because they need to know how they may use this technology and the possibilities and opportunities that this technology gives for the local communities, especially in these times of COVID and lockdown. The opportunities of working and making education from home is crucial. It might be done from the Sofia city center and from the city center of very remote village, in case there is a very good high-speed connection. By the way, when we showed trials, Vivacom last year in November 2019, we actually, one of the examples, it was before COVID, and one of the examples that we showed was a virtual classroom enabled by 5G technology. And I may assure you that it's completely different from what we're seeing now in Viber or other on other softwares, because it provides an atmosphere like you're indeed into the classroom. Interface is completely different, and interrelations between teachers and pupils is also absolutely different. In other countries, there are already many use cases of 5G in the ports, for example, for automation of the assembly of ships and engines, and also many features actually in medicine, where the low latency of the 5G networks usually save lives.
Alex?
I think Wi-Fi 6 and 5G can be a very good accelerator to digitalization, because just imagine what it would be to put sensors in within a city if you don't have a reliable wireless connectivity. You need to have a huge project of putting the cables in place so that you can connect, and this is stopping us from making the investment in smarter grids or whatever sensors for collecting information about the city we want to use. This is the same for a factory. If you want to have a huge manufacturing floor to be connected with all of the cables that you need to put in place, it's a huge investment. It's you need to make sure that the cables are protected, that they follow certain standards, etc. Nowadays you can just take a certain sensor, you can plug it in, and it is very quickly. It doesn't require all of this infrastructure work that you need to do. So this is a very good opportunity for everyone in Bulgaria that was thinking about digitalization, how they can actually execute the whole project. It will reduce the cost for introducing it, and it will give the reliability that they need so that they can operate. And as Janet mentioned, we need sometimes we need immediate information. With this type of connectivity, now we have ability to track in real time what is happening within the different systems we have, and this is gonna be able for us to build as a society different mechanisms to understand what's happening, for example, in the community that we're living. We can track if there is any consumption issues, if there is a problem with the leakage, for example, in the piping system or something like this, and this is something that we can track, and we can make sure that.
So let's put sensors in almost everything that we can touch and monitoring it in real time.
We can do that. It's not only to put the sensors in, it's just if you just do it because of the sensors, it's just gonna be the geeky side of you saying, oh, I can monitor everything. The thing is, you can understand if something is going wrong. Sometimes you have several hours until somebody calls the Sofijska Voda, for example, and tell them, you know what, there is a leakage and I don't have enough water in my pipe system. So they need to go and figure out where exactly the pipe was broken, and etc. With the sensors, they can identify that very quickly. It can be almost immediate, and they can identify very precisely where the problem is, so that they can direct the units directly to this place and fix it. And this is not just one example. You can use drones, for example, to monitor the energy system and identify breakage of the lines, and do it very quickly. Otherwise, you would need teams that would be just going up and down the energy line just to see if there is any problem with it, because you identify that there is something, but where exactly? It's a 100-mile line, so you need to go through the entire line to identify where exactly the problem is. Now you can just have one of the options is, I think there are trials already in this direction with drones that are monitoring the line, and then you can identify in real time where the problem is, and then you can directly direct the units there. So these are just few examples of how you can use this connectivity.
Okay. Jordan, can you give an examples about how Wi-Fi 6 will transform certain industries?
Well, for me, the Wi-Fi 6 and 5G, one thing is that it's built in mind with the IoT and industries. So I remember maybe it was 10 years ago, we were trying, quite successful to be honest, using Wi-Fi for mining industry in Bulgaria. And using the technology at that time was a real challenge because we needed to basically overcome a lot of obstacles because nobody was doing it. Now, Wi-Fi 6 have a lot of these learnings embedded into the protocols and technology. So it's much easier now to do such a things. The second thing is that we are famous with being innovative country, having a lot of software developers. That's the other part of the Wi-Fi 6, the ability to talk with the IoT devices. Also open the software industry to start developing the kind of gateway, making sense of what the sensors are doing. And saying sensor, I mean, you can't imagine what you can use as a sensor. One of the cases we had with recent lockdowns and the healthcare industry was using the kind of what is this Google or Alexa from Amazon as a voice device, connecting it to the access point, and then having a simple voice recognition software which allows people to touch less things. You can turn off, turn on lights. You can turn on or turn off the air conditioning on the TV set. That's, I mean, very simple way, very unusual way to use the sensor. It's not a sensor, it's basically the loudspeaker with the microphone, but with innovation, you can turn it into touch less, be safe type of environment. And I mean, I can give you thousands of examples in the different industries, how with the small things, using the technology, the embedded things in the technology, which you have now, you don't need to reinvent. Just writing a small code, you can do amazing things.
Well, in this case, can Bulgaria be an early adopter for Wi-Fi 6 and 5G? Or are we already somehow late? And which factors we should consider on that? Dimitar?
We're actually right on time for both of them. And one thing is the technology enabler, and the whole other thing is the ecosystem of solutions that we can bring on top. Autonomous services, machine vision on the edge, any kind of advanced sensing, high frequency sensing. I mean, all these technologies that do require a lot of bandwidth and do require a very short latency between the sensor and whatever engine is actually going to get the insight out of that data. All that ecosystem can be enabled. I mean, since we already have 5G from Vivacom, we have Wi-Fi 6 from Cisco, obviously. Even at home, I have Wi-Fi 6 from Cisco. So once we have all these technologies, it's all about what we are going to do on top of it. What are the high value add services? Because Bulgaria is a small country. Obviously, we can use it to enable better services within our factories, better services within our warehouses, but still just the square kilometers are not that much that it's going to make a worldwide impact. But still, we have the mentality of very early adopters. We have the mentality that sometimes we can actually be a little bit
too fast.
Too fast. Yes, to mix between the Germans and the Americans, but That's actually a superpower that we underestimate. A lot of us are really willing to jump in front with the head and then build that additional ecosystem of use cases, additional ecosystem of new software products, a new startup ecosystem which actually can tap in very fast access to autonomous driving, very fast access, let's say, to autonomous sweeper machines that can go and clean on the streets, fast access to 5G to do all this. I mean, obviously the forum is around industry and enterprise, but you have all these consumer use cases as gaming, which is huge, entertainment, VR, AR. If we enable the 5G, and we also are more keen to go and risk a little bit more than going through all the what will go wrong questions and all the legal, if we can get that step further, we can boost that ecosystem, because today we have the people. Obviously, there is enough capital. I think there is more capital at the moment than startups actually that can accumulate that capital to produce value. Mm-hmm. We have the 5G, we have the Wi-Fi 6, we have everything. We have compute.
So do we have the regulatory basis in this case?
Well,
Jeanette?
probably Jeanette can talk about that, but
we are the usual suspects when somebody raise the topic about regulatory, but in Bulgaria, I may say that we are in a very cooperative relations either with the Ministry of Transport and Communications and with the Commission for Regulation of Communications. What actually we need is more spectrum. And we expect next year Commission to allocate the spectrum in 700 megahertz band and 3.6 gigahertz band, so as to give us the possibility to increase the capacity of 5G network that Vivacom has already started. Because what we exactly done is to use a feature of current 4G network by dynamic spectrum sharing to be able to provide 5G services to our consumers with 5G enabled devices. But to roll out the full capacity of a 5G network, we will going to need a tremendous amount of spectrum that is only available in 700 megahertz and 3.600 gigahertz. This is on a technical spectrum side. The other thing that we need is a reduction of cost for deployment of 5G networks. Yes, Dimitar mentioned that we are a small country, but we are a mountainous country, which makes the life of our engineers and developers not so easy. So for that, we're going to need a very speed and cost-effective process of provision of permits for construction of base stations and sites for 5G. And the other thing most important that I would like to mention here, and when I see the role of the government is most important and above all, is the upskill of digital skills of the consumers and people working in businesses. Because what we see in annual digital economy and society index, which is an annual report of the European Commission, is that in Bulgaria we are famous with a very good infrastructure and very high speeds provided, especially in urbanized areas. But what is what we are not good in is the usage of all this high-speed services. It seems that people are using high-speed broadband connections to download movies, for example, to browse in internet sites, but not to do business there. And not to do e-commerce, for example. So what if we develop and roll out a very high capacity network if the people do not want to, or they do not know how to use it? So for me, digital skills will be the crucial challenge of the next few years. And that's why the changes in educational system that have been started by the Ministry of Education are absolutely welcome.
cues help society understand that 5G is not somehow malicious and is not causing cancer, for example, or killing birds. I mean, on a few media in the news, we saw articles connected even with in some countries like UK. People were burning down their 5G towers because they were thinking that it caused COVID. How we can solve that? What do you think? Actually, this question is to all of you.
It's a general educational topic. It's not like digital awareness or anything like this. It's more, we have nowadays, unfortunately, because of the social media, we have too much fake news spreading around. And yes, one of the digital awareness and basically the digital education should be how you can understand which is a fake news and which is not. Now, it's very easy to spread around malicious information, so to say, and because there is little control over what everybody can say within the media, we have this issue with people believing all types of nonsense which are not backed by any science facts. There are multiple scientific researches that were done on the topic so far, and nobody proved any relationship between this. And the types of waves that are used within the wireless transmission are non-ionizing, so they're way less charged than the sunlight, for example, or something like this. So this is a general awareness that needs to be brought up, and it's gonna take time. Nowadays, people are very easy to spread around their opinion without having any backup in the background. And but if you're too loud, people will start listening to you.
Yep.
So,
I remember in early days of Wi-Fi, we were organizing such a seminars explaining that Wi-Fi is safe. Actually, the 2.4 gigahertz we are using is for medical use, for medical devices. And by the way, your micro wave oven at your home basically uses the same frequency. So I think we are kind of ahead with Wi-Fi because people basically have it at home. They get used to it. So it's part of the behavior. Then I don't know, because I mean 5G, 4G, 3G, Wi-Fi, they all use the same frequency and the same encoding methodology. So how you can say, I mean, 5G is bad and LTE is good, when I mean human body cannot distinguish between the two.
When we talk about the sixth generation of Wi-Fi, how it can help the industrial IoT? Definitely, when we talk about Wi-Fi, we talk about a lot of devices that can be connected together. In that case, what is the difference with the fifth generation? And of course, what problems does Wi-Fi 6 solve and how that impacts manufacturing? Because when you talk about the IoT, we talk about manufacturing processes.
well, IoT is also at home, but in general, as we discussed a bit earlier, the problem becomes obvious, and the difference between Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6 becomes obvious when you put more devices. Now, when you put more devices on a Wi-Fi network, which is Wi-Fi 5, it will start degrading the quality of the connection, the bandwidth that each device receives, and etc. And with Wi-Fi 6, you have all of the saturation, so you have reliability across multiple devices. So if you look at the manufacturing floor, if you have 1,000 machines on the floor, and each machine has several thousand sensors, you can imagine what happens if you try to connect everything over the wire, over the air. And when you do it with a Wi-Fi 5, the quality of the network and the quality of the connection will drop significantly. So Wi-Fi 6 helps a lot in this respect because of the different mechanisms that it has for optimizing the channel, having up to 30 devices using one channel, and etc., which are with the beamforming and the coloring of the signals, etc., you can have all of these devices have constant connection level in terms of quality of the connection, etc. The other thing is that if you you have the option with the reservation of the channels and the connection time and etc. to reduce the consumption. So now you have the option to put sensors which will have way longer battery life, etc. So the maintenance of the machines will require less maintenance, so to say, and this will decrease the costs also. So these are just a few examples how you can use it. The other one is, I talked a bit about it in the beginning, that now you don't have all of these infrastructure projects that you need to put cables to all of the machines so that you can connect them reliably. So this is reducing the cost as well, and just giving you a different perspective what you can do. Because in the past, when you start certain project, you always considered what is the infrastructure cost, what are the projects that you need to implement at the beginning so that you can implement it, and this would start limiting you in the way how you perceive what you can do with this. As Dimitar mentioned, there are terabytes of data generated each day by these devices, and if you cannot transport all of this information, you become limited with what you can do with these devices, what you can understand, how you can build models for the machines that you're using so that you can put predictive maintenance algorithms on them and you can identify when there will be something wrong with the machine, etc. So these are a lot of the examples that you can do. Just a few, actually.
Thanks, Alex.
What I can add on this is the security part of the Wi-Fi 6 and the centralized management, because now when Wi-Fi industry kind of learned the lesson when Wi-Fi was available everywhere, but there was a lot of attacks over the Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi 6 changed the approach towards security with the centralized management. Also, especially for the IoT devices, now we have something called device registration protocol, which allows the especially sensors where they don't have a lot of memory and programming space to safely attach to the wireless network. Also, the other thing is something which is almost a standard called open roaming, which is basically allowing you to use your 4G or 5G credentials, SIM card or any other authentication protocol, and then roam into the wireless network. Because in most of the cases, we will have the factory floor, which is on Wi-Fi, and then you have everything else, which is outdoor based on 5G. That authentication also enables you to move from one network to the other without the need for the client device to do anything, just get the connectivity.
Dimitar, how do you think that 5G can bring more computing power and allow business to create added value? What do you see from your experience?
I mean, we actually have production deployments with 5G private networks with MEC, so mobile edge computing, in Switzerland, in United States, in Asia. What we have seen, as we said, there are all these new use cases to open new business models, as Alex said, around predictive maintenance, etc. And all these use cases, they require much more advanced analytics to run very close to where all the data is created. And by using edge computing, I mean, we can go and build these models and improve these models very close to the sensors, so we don't need to transport all the data from the factory going all the way to Western Europe or to United States data center. We can do it in the same neighborhood, we can do it in the same environment. Also, we see there is a big push of IT and OT convergence within all my customers. So while years ago, operations technologies, they had a very separated network, separated compute data centers within the factories, etc. And IT was taking care about more of the laptops or mobile devices or all the IT needs. Now we see convergence everywhere. We see a lot of these White House accounts where everyone's saying, okay, now we want to see hybrid model, where we have the compute, which is already existing within the factory, all these legacy data centers. We want to first extract the data stored there, because these are some historians with 15, 20 years of historical data inside. So we want to be able to query that data from a central model so we can see what's the output of all our factories within the country or within the continent. So how do we do it? Are we gonna go and install more compute within the factory first? I mean, it's not practical to put so much capex. Then how would you operate all these additional tools? With 5G, you can partner with the mobile network operators. You're getting all the automation, privacy, security, which comes with the cloud. I mean, we had, I can speak about the story where a customer got a cyber attack, and basically everything which was on-prem got affected. Everything which was on cloud, actually the cyber security of the cloud kicked in and stopped all the cyber attacks reaching out to the industrial and manufacturing data on the cloud side, but everything within the shop floor got infected and stopped. So obviously the model works. Obviously that's the trend. Everyone is investing into that, convergence, IT and OT. Everyone's investing in hybrid models, so we can actually get insight within the data that we have in these factories for the last 2 decades. And all that comes with the MEC, so mobile edge computing, which is part of the functionality which comes with 5G. Low latency, specialized computing, GPUs, and more kind of compute and intelligent power on the very, very edge. It's a really exciting time to be in the high tech and also definitely to work with industrial.
We didn't talk a lot about robotics. How do you think that 5G and Wi-Fi will affect robotics?
Well, basically mixture of what we said at the moment. A robot needs a lot of information and sensors to operate. So with this connectivity, we can help not only just having one robot isolated, but you can connect the robots between them. And having the ability to do edge computing and processing at the edge, you have the ability to take intelligent decisions when there is something wrong on the line. You can then make sure that all of the robots talk to each other and not just one moving a lot of stuff and the other one wondering what to do with it. Just as an example. But yeah, and again, adoption of robotics is something that requires thinking about the infrastructure in the first place. So some of the factories, they were not ready to put certain modernization of their lines because they needed to have a huge infrastructure project before that. This is again enabling you, if you move to wireless technology, you have the ability to accelerate the project of renovating the line because you don't have to spend that much effort and money to update your entire infrastructure on the shop floor, because it's not just pulling the cable done, it requires a lot of other stuff that need to happen.
And final question, which sectors do you see as leading in Bulgaria that will take a chance to implement 5G and Wi-Fi 6? Jordan? I think we lost him. Are we? Maybe. Jeanette? Okay, Jeanette, please join.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think this will be probably mining industry. Speaking about industries, also ports. I believe also it will be very, very crucial for our everyday lives, the early adoption of 5G opportunities in telemedicine and in medicine as a whole. Because you mentioned at the previous round of question that people are afraid because 5G might affect them and get them cancer. So I found a practical use case example from Sweden, actually stating right the opposite, how 5G technology provides and give opportunities for many women to be mammography examined remotely against breast cancer. This problem exists in Bulgaria also because recent statistics shows that at about 4,000 women in Bulgaria are diagnosed with breast cancer yearly, and maybe only 1 out of 5 goes regularly to mammography examination. What have they done in Sweden to overcome this? They actually use a wagon to go to remote areas and to make all this examination on the spot and use the 5G technology to transmit the processed images from this examination, because with a regular mobile network, it's too heavy and cannot be transmitted. Thus, they gave the opportunities to many other women to be early diagnosed and actually save their lives. By saying this practical example, I want to show that besides the many opportunities that 5G provides and enables for the industry, that will go. This generation of network will change our everyday life.
Oh.
I think I'm back.
Hey, hey, Jordan. Yeah.
So for me, the hospitality and the healthcare seems to be very early adopter on any Wi-Fi, and including Wi-Fi 6. Also, I mean, home office or whatever you name it, it's now part of the enterprise, as many people stay at home and work. That would be the first for me. And then industry, that depends on, I mean, where they are with their innovation cycle.
So I think telemedicine and hospitality are great examples. At least we've seen a lot in the recent year after the COVID stroke, specifically where we talk about telemedicine and how it can be applied so that it can save lives. And one of the things is, I guess you remember, that people were forbidden to go to hospitals unless they were in critical condition. And this is something that if we have another case like this, it will be a critical problem, because a lot of people may die just because they did not receive medical attention on time. So how you receive the medical attention is going to be a big topic, and hospitals are already thinking about it. Even using consumer grade products just to do early diagnostics is something that product. Hospitality, again, because of the congestions, people are now not getting to the hotel with only one device that will be connected. Mm-hmm. Nowadays everybody has a smartphone, sometimes more than one, and more or less everybody is bringing a tablet for their kids to watch certain shows and etc. And this is something that is very important for the hospitality to provide a good. Another one is, I think, as Jordan mentioned, home office. I think it's not going to be only the home office, because everybody is now thinking, oh, I have this cool gadget that I can put it in my place, like Alexa, for example, or having a smart doorbell, or any other device, or for example, the smart things that you can put to monitor if there is a leakage at your home or something like this. And this is something that even mobile operators are offering to their customers. So I think this is going to be the next thing that people will start adopting. And we have also in Bulgaria examples of companies that are successfully developing smart home appliances, and not only appliances but all types of automation. So this is, in my opinion, one of the next things that will pick up. Okay, thank you.
So I'm with Jordan and Alex. Definitely the modern workspace, which is going to be hybrid from now on for everyone. Yeah. I'm home office since the last 2 weeks forever. because they told us, okay, you can choose it for yourself, and then I chose it, like click. And this is not gonna go away. So all that modern workforce, obviously you're gonna demand more and more services. And speaking by services, we're just starting with video conferencing because we still don't have, let's say, enough bandwidth to go, and also the equipment at home to do mixed reality, let's say, which is the next wave of working together with your team. So definitely entertainment is going to be the next booming adopter for 5G. Everything related to gaming, cloud-based gaming, this is going to explode. The moment that the MNOs in Bulgaria actually can provide GPU resources very close to the gamers, I think there will be less people buying themselves like these gaming PCs and investing in capex, which is getting obsolete in a matter of months. So everyone's gonna look into cloud gaming, and this is gonna be the explosion for 5G. Cloud gaming, everything related to 4K, 5K, 8K entertainment, because you already have enough content, you just don't have the bandwidth to stream it. Yes, and there is a demand. I want to watch everything in 4K, but obviously demand catches up. And then on the logistics, definitely is going to be one of the first one in Bulgaria adopting 5G, because it's going to give them much more flexibility, better battery lifetime for track and trace, all the parcels down to the last mile delivery. Because, I mean, that innovation is happening worldwide. It's happening with us too. The startups are going to be the one, my bet, the startups will be the biggest adopters of 5G. The moment they can see, okay, we can start building all these new services which require
Startups listen.
Yes. Because
and there is funding for that already.
Yes,
so
there is more funding than startups in this country. So it's a perfect opportunity. Once they get the easy access to 5G, easier regulation, easier way to handle insurance policies, etc., easier way to innovate in the physical world, like with physical objects, autonomous devices, etc. I mean, this is going to be the mecca of actually adopting edge computing, ultra low latency computing, and 5G.
Jeanette, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining. Yeah.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being with you.
Me too. Now I'm passing the mic to my colleague Yonko, who share more about what happened on the event. So ladies and gentlemen, stay in touch with Yonko.
I hope that we shared some interesting insights in the field of robotics in Central and Eastern Europe, in the field of global automation trends, innovations in Bulgaria, and obviously 5G and Wi-Fi 6. A lot of people have been asking, all right, what's next for PARA? What are the next initiatives going forward? As I mentioned in the beginning, we joined the people who believe that actually, despite the situation, using technology, using creativity, and most importantly, using human capital, we can cope with the situation and we can make the world a better place. So from us going forward, you can expect not only the yearly report on the Bulgarian success stories in robotics and automation, you can now expect a monthly guest rubric with me and Chris and one of our media partners. You can expect additional webinars right here from Sofia Tech Park, from the clubhouse and our robotic club in it. And you can expect a number of additional projects in the field of education. And going forward with all of our members, we're going to work and in a number of initiatives, promoting investment, promoting a fair competition framework in Bulgaria, and most importantly, promoting digital skills and digitalization as the new age method of working. I'd like to thank very much our sponsors of the event. I would like to thank you, the panelists, and I would like to thank you, the viewers. We hope that we're insightful, we hope that we're interesting, and we're looking forward to seeing you in our next initiatives.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.